The child in the wreckage. The desert was quiet, filled only with the sound of soft wind brushing across broken rocks. Captain Ray Silas walked carefully across the sand, his boots crunching softly. His scanner beeped faster. The signal was coming. From just ahead, he moved past a dune and froze. There, half buried in the sand, was a crashed alien escape pod. The outer shell was cracked, black smoke still rising from its broken side. Sharp pieces of metal were scattered all around it. Ray stepped closer, one hand on the blaster at his hip. He wasn't sure if anyone or anything was still alive inside. He heard a soft sound, a whimper. He rushed to the broken pod, dropped to one knee and peered inside. His eyes widened. Curled up against the wall was a small alien child. Her skin was pale blue, her arms wrapped tightly around a glowing crystal. One leg was twisted badly. Her silver hair was matted with blood. But her eyes were open, wide, terrified. She stared at him like he was death. "It's okay," Ray whispered, slowly taking off his helmet to show his face. "I won't hurt you." The girl didn't move. She just clutched the crystal tighter. Ray reached into his pack, pulled out a small piece of soft bread and gently placed it on the floor of the pod. The girl blinked. Then, slowly, shakily, she reached for it. She ate. Ray let out a breath. She was alive. He worked fast. He wrapped her, leg with soft cloth, cleaned her wounds, and whispered calming words. The girl never said a thing, not a single word. She just stared at him with huge, quiet eyes. When he picked her up, she didn't resist. She just held onto the crystal, like it was part of her soul. Ray carried her back to his ship, the Marrow, and placed her gently on the medbed. The onboard AI beeped to life. Unknown species, severe fractures, mild internal bleeding, stable, for now. "Do what you can," Ray said. He stood by the bed for hours. The girl slept, breathing slow and soft. Sometimes she whimpered like she was trapped in a nightmare. Ray sat in silence, watching over her like a silent guardian. Outside, the stars moved slowly across the black sky. At dawn, Ray woke to a strange feeling. He turned and saw her standing. Not walking. Standing. Her eyes were glowing faintly. She held the crystal out toward him. "What's that?" he asked softly, not moving. The girl didn't answer. She just held it tighter, then tucked it against her chest and sat back down. Her body was shaking. "It's okay," Ray said. "You're safe here." She looked at him for a long time. Then, slowly, she whispered one word. "Run." Ray's heart jumped. "What did you say?" But she had already curled up again. He stared at her. Why would a wounded child, barely alive, tell him to run? Later that night, something hit his ship's shield. Just a soft impact, like a knock on a window. Ray walked to the cockpit, scanned the area but found nothing. No ships, no signals, just space. And yet something didn't feel right. His hands trembled slightly as he looked back toward the medbay. The girl was still asleep, but the crystal beside her was glowing brighter now, as if it could sense what was coming. The tracker in the dark, the stars outside the Marrow looked peaceful, silent, endless. But Captain Ray Silas had been in space long enough to know silence in space often came before death. The girl hadn't spoken again since that one word. Run. She slept with the crystal tight in her arms, her body still healing. Ray watched her from the cockpit, wondering what kind of child carried something that pulsed with strange light, something even his ship's scanner couldn't identify. Suddenly a soft alarm blinked on his console. Motion detected. Ray leaned forward. Nothing on radar. No visual. But still, the motion. Sensors picked up a brief ripple near his ship's outer field, like something had brushed against his shield without triggering a full alert. He stared into the dark. Nothing. Then, with a soft thunk, the lights in the hallway behind him dimmed. Just a glitch, he told himself. But his gut said otherwise. He stood, grabbed his blaster, and walked toward the medbay. Each step echoed loud in the narrow halls. Too loud. As he turned the corner, he stopped cold. Someone had drawn a symbol on the wall. Not with paint, with burns. A sharp, angular mark, alien in design, seared into the metal like it had been carved, with heat. Ray stepped closer, his voice cracked. Who the hell got in my ship? Behind him. Something moved. He turned fast, blaster up, but no one was there. He returned to the medbay. The girl was still sleeping, but the crystal was gone. His heart skipped. Then he heard it. Metal tapping, faint and sharp, coming from the cargo bay. He ran. The doors slid open and cold air rushed past him. In the shadows stood a figure, tall, cloaked in black armor, no face, no voice, just silence. In its hand, the crystal. Put it down, Ray said, aiming his blaster. The figure didn't move. Then it tossed something at his feet, a small metal disc. It clicked, a message played. A voice, deep and cold, filled the room. You stole what belongs to her. Return the child, or burn. Then the figure stepped back into thin air and vanished. No sound. No flash. Just gone. Ray stood frozen. Her. The crystal. The girl. What had he just gotten himself into? He ran back to the medbay. The girl was awake, her eyes glowing softly in the dark. Who was that? He asked. She didn't answer. Who's looking for you? She sat up, her face pale, and then slowly she lifted her hand and pointed to the stars outside. Mother, she whispered. She's coming. That night, Ray locked every system, every scanner, every shield. But it didn't matter, because the stars had changed. One by one, systems across the quadrant started going dark. No distress calls, no explosions, just silence. Entire outposts, gone. He watched helplessly as reports came in. Station 17 lost. Colony Vega offline. Moon base echoes nothing. Every place that could have helped him, gone. And the last signal to reach him. A garbled voice. Panicked. Scared. She's looking for him. She's looking for the human. She won't. Stop. She's... Then silence. Ray turned to the girl. She stared at him. Eyes glowing. Tears on her face. You should have left me, she whispered. Now she will find you too. Ray knelt beside her. I don't leave people behind, he said. The girl trembled. Then for the first time she reached out and held his hand. Then you're already one of us, she said softly. Far away, in the darkness of deep space, a giant ship floated in silence, its hull black as night, its engines powered by something ancient, and in the center stood a tall figure with eyes like dying stars. She watched the human's ship through a silent feed. Her voice echoed through the chamber. No one takes my daughter. No one. She raised one hand. The galaxy shivered. The planet that refused. The ship floated above a glowing planet, its green and blue surface peaceful from space. To Captain Ray Silas, it looked like a safe place, a neutral colony known for mercy, called Elion 6. He had no other choice. Fuel was low and the girl was burning up with fever. As they entered the atmosphere, the girl gripped his arm tightly. Don't let them take me, she whispered. Ray frowned. They won't. But deep down, he wasn't so sure. The landing pad was quiet. No guards, no doctors, only scanners. As soon as the system read her DNA, the lights above them turned blood red. Sirens howled. Ray held the girl tighter. The loudspeakers cracked to life. Human pilot. You are carrying an illegal entity. Release the child and stand. Down. Ray stepped forward, his voice calm. She's wounded. She's just a child. That is not a child, the voice said. That is the daughter of the Void Widow. The name dropped like a knife in Ray's chest. He turned to the girl. That's your mother's name? She looked away. Ray looked up at the sky. Ships were launching. leaving the colony, running. Within minutes, he was surrounded by a full defense squad. But they weren't aiming at him. They were pointing all their weapons at her. "Step aside," one of the soldiers said. "This isn't your fight." "She's injured," Ray replied. "She hasn't done anything." The soldier's hands trembled. "Doesn't matter. She's the key. If she dies, maybe the mother stops." Ray stood between them. "If you shoot, you go through me." The soldier looked scared. Not of Ray, but of what might happen if they didn't kill the girl, before anyone could decide. The sky lit up. A crack of blue lightning split the clouds. The colony's shield cracked like glass. Then, it shattered. A massive black vessel appeared, descending from the sky. It made no sound, just presence, like a nightmare given shape. "No," the soldier whispered. "She found us." Ray grabbed the girl and ran. The defense system activated, but it didn't matter. The black ship fired once, a beam of silence. Not fire, not light, but stillness. Erased the command center in a heartbeat. Ray didn't look back. He reached his ship, threw the girl into the co-pilot seat, and launched. The engine screamed, barely holding together. As the marrow rose into the sky, Ray looked down at the colony. Half of it was already gone. The other half was kneeling, bowing to the ship above. Not in welcome, in fear. Once they cleared orbit, the girl was silent, her hand pressed against the glass, watching the smoke rise from the planet. "This is what she does," she said softly. "She burns the sky for me." Ray turned. "Why?" She looked at him with eyes full of pain. "Because she thinks I'm a weapon," she whispered. "And you stole it." Ray clenched his jaw. "No, I saved a child." She shook her head. "To her, that's the same thing." That night, as they drifted through empty space, a signal reached Ray's ship. Audio only. No source, no origin, just the same voice as before. "This is your final warning. Return my daughter, or your stars will scream." Ray shut it off. He sat beside the girl. She didn't look at him. "You can leave me," she said quietly. "Others have." Ray stared at the stars, then shook his head. "I don't leave people," he said. The girl closed her eyes. For the first time, she smiled. But far away, in the cold chamber of the Void Widow's ship, a figure walked into her throne room and knelt. "Mother," he said. "The human escaped Elion 6. We believe he is heading toward Novaskar." The widow didn't speak. She simply raised a finger. The officer's body turned to ash, and she whispered, "Then Novaskar will be erased." The memory she hides, the stars outside Novaskar were sickly red, twisted by the nearby dead sun. This region of space was uncharted, broken, and full of ancient wrecks that floated like ghosts. Most ships avoided it, but Captain Ray Silas had no choice. His ship's hull was cracked, fuel cells low. The girl's fever was getting worse, and more than that, she had started screaming in her sleep. Not just cries, words in a language that made the ship's AI shudder, words that cracked the walls. Inside the medbay, Ray placed cold packs on the girl's forehead. She was burning up. Her lips moved as if chanting. The crystal glowed brighter now. Too bright. Ray picked it up, and for the first time, it reacted. A thin beam of light shot from its core, striking the wall and revealing a hologram, not just images, a memory. The room changed. Ray stood frozen as the ship filled with scenes from the girl's past. A great hall of black stone, soldiers bowing, and a tall woman, dressed in jagged armor, kneeling before a smaller figure. The girl. But she wasn't a child in the memory. She was older, stronger. Her eyes glowed with power, and she spoke in the same terrible tongue. Ray realized something terrifying. These weren't her memories. Not exactly. They were possibilities, versions of what she could become. The final scene struck him hardest. The girl, eyes white with power, standing in front of a shattered Earth. Bodies lay in every direction, ships broken, stars bleeding, and beside her, the void widow, smiling. Together, daughter, she said. No more weakness. Ray fell to his knees as the vision faded. The girl lay there silent, her fever fading, like the memory had taken the pain from her. She opened her eyes. You saw it, she whispered. Ray nodded slowly. What you might become, he said. She looked afraid. I don't want it. Then fight it, he replied. I can't, she said. My blood, it's already changing. Ray stood. You're not your mother. The girl looked at him, eyes watering. But what if I'm worse? Later that day, a signal pulsed from the crystal, a location. Ray hesitated, but followed it. They arrived at a floating wreck. Old. Dead. No life signs. But when they entered, it was warm, like something inside was waiting. The wreck was filled with symbols, each one glowing faintly. In the center, an ancient chair, and resting on it, another crystal, smaller, cracked. Ray reached for it. The girl screamed, too late. The moment his fingers touched it, the room collapsed into darkness. He opened his eyes inside another memory. But this time, it wasn't hers. It was the widow's. He saw her before she became a monster, laughing, holding her baby, living a quiet life on a peaceful world. Then, war. Her planet was invaded. She begged the Galactic Council for help. They refused, and they took her child, this girl, to make her into a weapon. The widow lost everything, and swore she would make the galaxy pay. Ray stumbled out of the vision, gasping. The girl caught him. You saw it? She said. Ray nodded. She wasn't always like this. No, the girl whispered. But now, she's something else. And she'll burn everything to get me back. They returned to the ship. Ray sat in silence. For the first time, he didn't know what to do. He couldn't kill a child. He couldn't fight the widow. But running was no longer working. The girl walked to him and took his hand. You believed in me when no one else did, she said. You still do? Ray looked into her eyes. Yes, she smiled. Then I'll try to believe in myself too. Above them, cloaked in the folds of warped space, a small probe watched silently, then vanished. The signal had been sent, and far away, the void widow's ship changed course. She had seen enough. Her daughter was bonding with the human, and that could not be allowed. The trap in the stars. The ship drifted into a hollow sector of space called Black Reach, where ancient stations floated like the bones of dead titans. Nothing lived here. No signals, no gravity, only forgotten battles. Captain Ray Silas had a plan. If we're always running, she'll find us again, he told the girl. But if we lure her into a false signal trail, maybe we buy time. The girl didn't respond. She was changing again. Her eyes glowed longer now. Her voice sometimes echoed, not once but twice, like two minds speaking at once. Ray didn't tell her, but he was scared. He found an old satellite station buried in the wreckage, still functional. He coded a false signal, one that mimicked the girl's energy signature, and sent it toward the outer rim. It was bait, loud enough to draw attention but scrambled enough to seem real. This will lead her away, he said. But the girl was staring at the stars. You don't understand her, she said. She doesn't follow signals. She follows me. We masked your energy. The girl shook her head slowly. She's my mother. I'm her heartbeat. That night, Ray locked himself in the cockpit, watching the signal trail move. He felt uneasy, like something was watching. He checked the cameras. Nothing. He checked again. Still nothing, until one frame glitched just for a second. And in that frozen frame, he saw a shadow standing behind the girl's bed. A tall shadow. Armored. Motionless. He jumped to his feet, but when he reached the med bay, it was gone. Only the girl was there. She looked at him. She sent him. She whispered. The hunter. The next day they were ambushed. The signal Ray had sent was a mistake. A trap, yes. But not for the widow. For him. As they entered orbit over a derelict moon, a cloaked ship appeared from nothingness and fired a pulse blast. The Marrow was disabled in seconds. Ray tried to reboot controls, but it was too late. A boarding party slammed through the hull. They moved like shadows. Fast. Silent. Ray fought hard, but they overwhelmed him. One of them, a massive alien bounty hunter, dragged the girl from her bed, chaining her hands. Ray screamed. Let her go! The hunter raised a blade, then paused. The girl looked up, her eyes full of power, and she broke the chains without touching them. A blast of energy filled the room. The bounty hunter flew backward, crashing into the walls. Sparks lit the air. Ray ran to her, pulling her close. What did you do? The girl stared at her hands, shaking. I didn't mean to, she said. It just happened. Behind them, the hunter groaned, rising again. But this time, he didn't attack. He knelt, his voice soft and shaking. She is awakening. Then, like a machine without purpose, he powered down, lifeless. They fled fast, engines failing. As they drifted back into deep space, the girl was silent, her body glowing faintly. Ray didn't say anything for hours. Finally, she broke the silence. You should be afraid of me. Ray turned. I'm not, he said. Why? Because fear is what made your mother a monster. The girl looked away. I think she wanted peace once, Ray said. But the galaxy taught her to hate. Will it teach me the same? Ray stared into the stars. Not if I can help it. But far behind them, in a chamber lit by black fire, the Void Widow knelt before a shrine built from her daughter's childhood things. A voice echoed through the flames, not hers. She is choosing him. The widow rose, her hands trembling. Then, I will burn the sky itself, she whispered, and erase the stars until she forgets what love feels like. The face of the widow space trembled, not from sound, not from weapons, but from something deeper, like the stars themselves held their breath. Captain Ray Silas stood in the center of his ship, frozen, as an unknown energy forced the Marrow to halt in mid-space. Engines died, weapons locked. Time felt slower. What's happening? He asked. The girl stood beside him, silent. Her eyes glowed silver. Then she whispered, She's here. A black gate tore open in space ahead of them, long, smooth and lined with crimson light. Out of it drifted a single vessel, not a fleet, not an army, just one ship. But it was enough to make every star around them flicker like candles in wind. The ship didn't fire, it didn't hail, it just docked and locked. Ray stood by the main corridor holding his breath. No alarms, no pressure, change, but he felt it. Something vast, something ancient. Then the doors slid open, and she stepped in. The Void Widow, taller than any human, dressed in robes made of shifting shadows. Her face was not a face, it was a mask of living metal, shaped like grief. Her voice carried no sound, but her presence spoke. Ray raised his weapon. She didn't blink. Give her to me, the widow said. Her voice echoed inside Ray's mind, cold and smooth, like oil slipping across stone. You're not taking her, he replied. The widow tilted her head. You don't understand what she is, she said. I don't care what she is, Ray said. I know who she is. Behind him, the girl stepped forward. Her voice was clear now. Older. Mother. The widow turned. For a moment, time stood still. The girl's voice trembled. You burned 1,000 worlds for me. I never asked for that. I did it to protect you, the widow answered. You did it because you were afraid, the girl replied. The widow's mask cracked slightly, only for a moment. They were going to turn you into a weapon, she said. So you became one instead? The girl whispered. Ray lowered his blaster. Listen to her, The widow looked at him, then moved closer. You infected her, she said, with weakness. Ray stood tall. No, I reminded her she had a choice. Without warning, the widow raised her hand. Ray was slammed into the wall. Blood filled his mouth. The girl screamed, "Stop!" And something broke. Not glass, not metal. Reality. The girl rose into the air. Energy poured from her skin like light through cracks in the universe. The widow stepped back. You're not ready. I'm tired of being ready, the girl shouted. Stars outside began to twist. The ship's lights turned blue, then white. Ray struggled to his feet. You're going to kill yourselves. The girl floated between them, arms outstretched. I don't want to fight anymore, she said. Her voice shook the ship. I want to be free. And then, just like that, she collapsed. Ray caught her. She was breathing. Barely. The widow stared at her, and for the first time, she knelt. Not to Ray. Not in defeat, but in something older. Grief. Remorse. She reached toward her daughter, but Ray pulled her close. You're not touching her unless she asks for you. The widow didn't argue. She turned away and left. Minutes later, her ship vanished. No threats, no war, just silence. Ray sat with the girl as she slept, her head on his shoulder, his voice soft. You ended it, the girl mumbled, eyes closed. Not yet. Far away, deep in the black between galaxies, a new signal began to rise. Not from the widow, but from others. Those who feared what the girl could become. They would not ask for her return. They would come to erase her. And now, they feared the human too. The bond that broke the stars were silent. Too silent. Not from peace, but from fear. Captain Ray Silas sat at the edge of his bed, eyes fixed on the sleeping girl. Her breathing was soft, but the air around her shimmered faintly as if the universe bent itself to her dreams. She had not spoken in 2 days, not since the face-off with her mother. But something had changed, inside her, and outside too. Because now, the others were coming, not the widow, but those who feared her, and feared him for standing beside her. The warning came not from a message, not from a signal, but from the sky itself. 12 ships dropped out of slipspace at once, surrounding them. Each from a different galactic empire, some of them enemies of each other, now allies in fear. They didn't hail Ray. They didn't ask for peace. They simply spoke one sentence. Release the entity, or prepare for total erasure. Ray looked at the girl. Still asleep. Still glowing. He stood, walked to the control panel and turned on the comms. This is Captain Ray Silas. If you think you can destroy her, come try. He cut the signal. The air was thick with silence. The girl opened her eyes and said softly, They're afraid of me. Ray nodded. Are you? He looked at her. No, he whispered. She sat up, her voice steadier now. Then I'll show them what mercy looks like. Outside, the Armada powered their weapons, each blast charged with enough energy to turn moons to dust. Ray held her hand. She floated upward, eyes glowing not with rage, but with clarity. She rose out of the ship, surrounded by light. No shield, no weapon, just her. And she spoke. Not with sound, not with power, but with truth. Every ship received the same memory. Not an image, not a threat, but a feeling. They saw her life, her pain, her choices, the wars she never wanted, the rescue, the kindness, the simple bread in a stranger's hand. They felt the warmth of a human voice saying, You're safe now. They saw a human, alone, stand between her and the galaxy, and they understood. The Armada didn't fire. They powered down one by one. Not in defeat, but in shame. The war that was about to begin never started. Back on the ship, Ray found her sitting quietly by the window. You stopped them, he said. No, she replied. You did. How? By showing me I could be something more than what they feared. Ray smiled. What, now? He asked. The girl looked at the stars and whispered, Now we build a future. Weeks later, the story of the man who rescued the Void Widow's daughter spread like wildfire. Some called him reckless. Others called him mad. But most? They called him the bond breaker, the one who broke the cycle of war through kindness, the one who reminded the stars that even the smallest act of love could rewrite the fate of galaxies. Far away, the Void Widow watched from a forgotten moon. She did not return. She did not speak. But for the first time in 1,000 years, she smiled.